Welcome to Beyond the Wake, where we gather stories of the veterans and volunteers who make up the Wake for Warriors family. In this episode, I had the chance to sit down with Hans, a retired Army veteran who had just attended his first Wake for Warriors event in 2024. Fresh off the water, we talked about what brought him to the event, what the experience was like, and how it impacted him. If you're on the fence about applying to join us, this episode is for you. Let's go. I'm here with Hans, who attended his first Wake for Warriors event this past weekend on Lake Oconee in Georgia. Thank you for coming to spend time with us today, Hans. Tell me, what was your event like?
So this was, as Sarah said, this was my first event with Wake for Warriors. In fact, it was my first veterans event that I've attended outside of, job fairs and 2 VFW meetings I've attended since I got out 6 years ago. So for me, there
And
was
what branch were you in, Hans? I'm sorry, I should have started with that.
Yeah, so just a little quick short bio on me. Grew up in Southern California, went to college in Vermont, the oldest private military college in the country, Norwich University. Commissioned into the United States Army regular field artillery in 1996, spent 22 years, lived in 7 states and multiple countries, multiple deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, deployed to Kuwait as well. 1 year in Korea, 2 years in Australia. So got around quite a bit. Last duty station was in South Carolina. Made the decision to retire to North Carolina and haven't regretted that a moment since. I have a wife of going on 20 years who was a career educator. So she had to get relicensed in every state we moved to. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old boy who are happy we're not moving anymore, as are we all. As I previously mentioned not too long ago, got out in 2018, kind of flailed around a little bit, didn't know what I wanted to do, decided to use that GI Bill that we all have, which I encourage everyone to do, and attended Duke University Fuqua School of Business to get my MBA.
Just a little shout out there.
Yeah, a little shout out. Best school in North Carolina. Fight me. And sure there's a UNC grad who's willing. Yeah, since then I've been working in the financial services industry, although I recently did transition. No idea what the future holds, but very excited. So as I mentioned, this was my first veterans event. Due to encouragement from other people in the past, I did attend a VFW meeting or 2. Unfortunately, that was pre-COVID and then just never went back after COVID. The only other veteran events I've been to are hiring fairs, which are not the same, obviously. Everybody's there for one reason and one reason alone, to get a job. So my neighbor is Anson Roberts, who is known through his Instagram and YouTube handle, Nub Gunner. And he attended an event last summer at Lake Norman with Medal of Honor winner Kyle Carpenter. And he said to me, "Hey, Hans, you got to come to this thing. It's a great opportunity, to meet other veterans, to hang out with folks and just kind of relax." And initially I said, yeah. There's about 7 or 8 of us in the neighborhood who are veterans, and all of us kind of said, "All right, Anson, whatever." And, to be frank, part of that, I'm sure, is the fact that when you run into guys like Anson or Ryan B. or Woody or any of the other attendees at the events, you see the physical devastation of war that can be enacted on one person. And, for a lot of vets out there who might have, a minor injury or a minor wound from combat, or, maybe they've got the post-combat stress, or, maybe they had a TBI from an IED, or anxiety.
The invisible injuries.
The invisible injuries. There's a lot of trepidation about, like, do I deserve to go to this? Knowing that there's, guys out there with no legs or, one arm or other injuries that are significant, blindness, whatever. And you're like, I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to go do this. Well, to those people, I'd say you should go. All right. I certainly felt that, and I don't have a problem sharing that. When when I hit my head hard once in an IED, they didn't give out Purple Hearts for that, and I certainly wouldn't have wanted one. But that doesn't mean that the anxiety you feel in combat, whether you're leading troops and you have troops killed or injured, or just the everyday stress that you bear, knowing that you're going to go out on a patrol, knowing that you're going to have a mortar attack or a rocket attack or an RPG attack, or, just to go to the next base so you can fly out on leave, you might be subjected to an IED. That constant stress affects you, whether you want to admit it or
Absolutely.
not. And you can carry it with you for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, levels vary from person to person. So, without getting too much into it, certainly for me, there was a little bit of trepidation of like, man, Hanson, I don't want to, encroach on anything like that. But that being said, I wasn't the only healthy person, walking around at the event. And I would certainly say that there's something to be gained by being in the presence of those, walking or in some cases rolling reminders of the, impacts of war, and to share your experiences, with some of the guys that were there. I was like, oh, wow, you might have been one of the engineers we called out to clear a weapons cache that we found at an island because we didn't have boats. And to realize that myself and another veteran were in the same area at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
those shared experiences are great. And there's no big kumbaya moments. Nobody's going to make you stand up and, cry about, Bubba to reference
Right. So
Forrest
no
Gump.
mandatory crying
Right. There's nothing like that. It's just sitting around a table and talking, or,
on a
on this
boat.
recent event at Lake Oconee, we had, the early onset of the early edges of then I think Tropical Storm Debbie rolling into the area. So we had, about an hour one day where we were just chilling out in a sunroom. It was literally like waiting to fly out on deployment. People just lying on the floor, trying not to get rained on, and just talking and BSing as soldiers, sailors, and airmen all do. And so, again, long answer to a short question of would you recommend it? Absolutely. I would recommend it to every veteran who can. And even if you don't think that you're probably or maybe physically able, just talk to Dave, talk to Jay, talk to the other people at the event who are going to find a way for you to participate. I mean, that's how I'd answer that question, Sarah.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I love that. I love that perspective because we do have a lot of people who hesitate to sign up because, and you know what if I told you we have double amputees. We have people who are paralyzed that also have that same feeling of unworthiness. So yeah, we can't let that stop you from signing up.
Right.
Absolutely not.
And on a more lighthearted note, so prior to this, Anson and I have a neighbor who recently purchased a boat last summer. And so I've gone out 3 or 4 times flailing away trying to get the whole wake surfing and wakeboarding thing down. And on the very first day at Lake Oconee for Wake for Warriors in 2024, I wake surfed more in one day than I did my entire life. And by day 2, I was catching waves. And by day 3, I was doing stupid things like requesting specific music so that I could, maybe impress myself and impress my kids on video.
Right.
So I haven't quite mastered it yet, um, but I will, and it's very enjoyable. So to kind of cut away from the stresses of home and work and family and just life in general, and honestly, I didn't think of any of the stressors in my life at all for 3 days. It was a complete and total detachment, and
Yeah.
that's great to have. That's a great thing to have. For me, after halfway through the first day, I texted my wife and I was like, I need to do one of these a year.
Yeah.
This is great. Like I think it was before noon on the first day. I was like, I need to do one of these a year because this is,
I love it.
yeah.
That makes me so happy. Let me see if what I can pull up. I've got some photos and videos here. Let's see your reaction to some of these. I was looking for I think this is you
Yeah,
in the water.
yeah, I'm still a little upset that there were no awards given for the most cinematic fails because I
Were
had
you
some
killing it?
oh man, I had a couple where the board shot straight at the boat. You
Nice.
know, I had some really good. I believe the kids call them bangers.
You had
And
some real bangers, didn't you?
I had some real bangers. Yeah, I rattled my gourd a few times.
Yeah. Well, what was that like? Is it as far as like physically demanding, do you feel like you were able to do it? Were you able to get out there and wake surf?
Sure, absolutely. And this is a little pride talking, and pride always goes before the fall. But I grew up, I wasn't Tony Hawk or anything, but I grew up skateboarding, and like many born Americans during COVID, I decided to engage in some dubious activities, and so I bought a skateboard and skated around a little bit. But this was different. So for anyone
Mm.
who's concerned, I will say this: the boat when you're wake surfing is not moving as fast as you may think, and the
True.
the falls are not hard. Now, for those of you who are brave enough and perhaps physically gifted enough, as I was, to try wakeboarding, the opposite is the case. The boat is moving much faster, and you will. Oh, and that's a great video of someone who's doing it
Yeah.
well.
That was
That
Christian
is
this weekend.
that that is not me. But the wakeboarding, there's an element of uh, you know higher reward, higher risk.
Yeah,
So I would
absolutely.
say that. So if you're worried about it, keep in mind that Dave Deep and Jay and all the other people who've been doing this a while, um,
Mm.
they're skilled at getting you to succeed at the level of your ability, and then perhaps increase your ability and exceed that.
Mm-hmm.
And um, you know, on our boat we had Bill driving, and Jay is one of the coaches, Jay McKibben, and yeah, I think that's me, and
That's you.
that's
If I can just get it,
yeah,
I'll get it switched around.
yeah, and there's what I would say to people is there's so many things to this. Every single time you stand up and ride, the coaches and the other veterans who've been there before, they're going to give you feedback,
Yeah.
and they're going to tell you, "Hey, great job," or "Wow, you really biffed that," because veterans were certainly okay to slagging each other a little bit, um,
Yeah.
and so they're going to give you some feedback in every little bit. You just relax, you focus on that, and going back to kind of forgetting your worries. You're so focused on the task at hand. You're so focused. That was a decent biff. That was not one of my more cinematic ones. Just kind of rolled over there. But
This was a graceful one.
yeah, but for those of you, that's the thing, is the focus on this task, the focus on getting better and improving and doing better at this is
Yeah.
is what removes you from maybe your concerns. And going back to, does it hurt? Look, I'm not a spring chicken necessarily. I'm 50 years old. And again, there's a great example of a humbling moment right there, as you can see Ryan Major getting on the wave there.
Mm.
Now I know he is a veteran of these events, but you know Dave and everyone else worked with him, and there's Diane driving. They worked with him to get him to that point. And
Yeah.
I'm certain for him, the first time he went out, it was probably pretty scary too. But at this point, it's an
Yeah.
enjoyable experience, and I would say that for me. Yeah, I was pretty sore. I attribute at least 30% of that to being hard-headed and trying to
Were
wakeboard on
you a
the
little
first day.
hard-headed, sir?
I was a little hard-headed. I mean, I certainly tried far more wakeboarding than I should have. I should have gone straight to the wake surfing.
Do you
But
regret it though?
no, not at all. There's no regrets here. It was a great experience, um, and yeah, you're going to hurt a little bit, but that's to be expected. Whether your pride hurts or whether your body hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Getting better at anything requires sacrifice and a little bit of suffering. If it were easy, everybody would do it. Um, but I would say that this is definitely worth the time and effort. And we had this Lake Oconee event was just great. It was a great event. I know that not all of them are 2.5 day events like this one was. So for me, this was certainly special. I know that some of them tend to be more 1.5 day events. And on
Well,
the
what's the
subject of,
value of that?
well, the value of that is, I'd say this: your first day, you're so bound up in nerves, and
Mm.
most. I'm not going to say all, but not the stereotype, but lots of people in the military in particular, we like to, you know, you have this kind of, particularly for those of us of the global war terrorism kind of era, you're the tactical athlete, right? Most of us in some way, shape, or form, particularly those who maybe went into combat arms or, those kinds of fields, you carry with you that I'm good at things physically, right?
Mm.
And so
Understandably.
your first, morning, if you've never wake surfed or wakeboarded before, done any board events like snowboarding or skateboarding or surfing, you know, there's going to be some humbling moments for you. And you need to get that out of your system and relax. I truly didn't relax until the third morning. I truly didn't relax until that Sunday morning, um, where the lake was, and there I am walking in,
Little
looking like,
stiff.
a little stiff. That Sunday morning, where you relax a lot more and you can kind of get into that flow vibe state, I guess you could say. Um,
Yeah.
and certainly towards the end of the second day, that kind of started to sink in a little bit for me too. But going to bed that night and relaxing and everything helped with the third morning. So having those multi-day events help, but don't think that makes a difference. This would have been a great 1 day event too. It would have been well worth it to just go for 1 day and get out there and meet everyone and share lunch and maybe dinner and
Right.
everything like that. And
There's something about
there's
those multi-day events, though. I think you nailed it about like the hour that we spent waiting for the storm to pass. Like relationships form in a multi-day event. That's why we always lean towards these multi-day, more like family oriented, staying in people's homes. Like you learn to trust the people on the boat, and you learn that these people, around you, the people that open their homes, that lent their boats, that brought food, there's so much love in that, and there's power in that builds this community. What would you say to that?
absolutely. And our event at Lake Oconee was very interesting in that, the neighborhood there at Reynolds Plantation, I think it was called Reynolds Plantation or Country Club or whatever it was, they opened up their homes to us. Multiple neighbors in the neighborhood opened up their homes to us, hosted dinners, hosted lunches, provided all 3 meals a day. Um, and, big shout out to Ken and Debbie who hosted myself and Anson and
Are they
photographer Ryan.
wonderful?
They're very, very kind people, very nice, opened their home to us. Lovely home, had a fridge just stuffed with,
Oh, they're gonna
tea,
feed you.
body armor, a countertop full of, lickies and chewies, pokey bait, as we used to say. Just a great, great welcoming environment. And then Kev and Stacy, the home base of the event, providing, a space for breakfast and lunch and a dock for us to launch off of every morning. Just absolutely opening up their entire home to us. Just amazing. And then Bob and Barb hosting, probably the best dinner of the event. I mean,
Yeah.
the fillet. I mean, who goes to an event like this expecting to get filet mignon?
Right.
I mean, it was crazy, and just everybody's so welcoming, so heartfelt in their appreciation for what we do, and just an absolutely welcoming environment. Very, very, very welcome and nice people, and truly appreciative of our service and sacrifice of the veterans who attended. So,
You could feel
can't
it, couldn't you? Like it was
yeah
just so genuine.
yeah I can't say enough about the people hosting. It was very, very, very nice. It sounds like how many varies? Yeah, can you use in a sentence? I don't think enough. So
Right. Yeah, I haven't met anyone. I've only been involved with Wake for Warriors for a year, but I haven't met anyone in this organization yet that I haven't just fallen in love with. Just genuine, incredible people, like, like yourself included. Like, that's what's so cool about this community is it is civilians and military coming together, but the barrier is kind of removed on the boat. It's removed around the dinner table.
yeah, and one thing I didn't expect was as much participation from the hosts. And I don't know if that's normal or not, or that's just unique to Lake Oconee. Oh, there's Tisha. She's amazing on the wakeboard as well. The third morning she rode on our boat, and she gave me some great pointers. Again, going back to, it's not just the professional wake surfing coaches who are going to help you out. It's the vets as well, but the hosts. A lot of them actually rode out with us during the days on jet skis to provide an extra barrier of safety, particularly for those, adaptive athletes attending. At one point on my boat, we had Mike, who is 100% blind and will give you massive feelings of inadequacy once he gets on a wake surfboard and shows you all the tricks he can do.
Seriously.
But he took a not a hard fall, but a fall where the board just shot off.
There's Mike.
Yeah, there's Mike.
Again,
where the
100% blind.
Yeah, where the board shot off a good 20, 30 feet away. And Danny, the gentleman on the jet ski who was escorting us, saw another wake boat coming our direction because we were in a pretty popular cove for those people who know where the good places are to wake surf on Lake Oconee. And he just jetted out there and waved him down and stopped and said, "Hey, I got an adaptive athlete veteran over here. If you guys could hold off for a second so the waves don't swamp him while he tries to find his board." While we're yelling at Mike, 9 o'clock, 30 feet, while he's trying to, swim in darkness to his board while we circle the boat around. So the hosts were out there with us, retrieving boards, blocking, the path of oncoming boats from us, just, filming us in some cases, carrying Ryan to get these, nice side on shots as opposed to all of the ones just off the fantail of the boat. So, can't say enough. They enjoyed themselves, and they tell us afterwards, "Wow, can't believe where you are this morning from Friday when you started."
Oh, the progress is immense in a couple of days. I'm still so shocked.
Yeah, for sure. And, so again, the hosts were just an added aspect to this that I did not expect. So, great time at
event
Lake
is
Oconee.
so special. Absolutely. It's the people that make it special for sure. Yeah, can't say enough good things about that. Well, let me ask you one more question. So there's a lot of research and there's a lot of science behind the fact that when we have fulfilling hobbies and we have strong communities, it just has this trickle-over effect in our life for our mental health, for our physical health. What would you say, if any, is there a trickle-over effect in your life for attending a multi-day event like this?
Sure. And, I'll share. I had this conversation with my wife a few weeks ago. When I was in the military, I was in the Army, and we always did PT. But prior to the Army, I swam in college, and in high school, I played water polo and swam. And prior to that, I played soccer. I played, all the sports that kids growing up in America play, except for football. My mother was adamant, and unfortunately, research has proven her correct in that. Which is ironic because once I joined the Army, I started playing rugby.
Sorry, Mom.
I played well. I think there's evidence that, oddly enough, it's probably safer than football.
Gotcha.
But I played rugby for actively, say 11 years, and then probably inactively where I just played like one game or two games a year, 13 years. And then transition from that to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all while still doing PT in the mornings. And then interspersed in there at one point, I competed in Olympic weightlifting, and then on deployments, got into powerlifting with guys. So the point is, I spoke with my wife maybe a month or two ago, and I said, I never realized how much exercising and being an athlete impacted my mental well-being. Because when
Mm.
I got out of the Army, I just stopped. Like a lot of guys, I did the wrong thing and I put off going to the doctor, until I knew I was getting out. Then I had some pretty significant ankle surgery, um, which sidelined me for my last few months in the Army to the point where I was literally in bed for almost 3 weeks, recovering from surgery, and then got out of the Army and then moved, and then just didn't work out
Mm.
for quite a while, and I didn't realize how much importance and part of being who I am, being an athlete, was. And when I say that, you don't necessarily have to compete in an event to be an athlete. I'm certainly not going to go join a wake surfing competition next week by
Are
any.
you sure? We got one in 2 weeks. We will
Yeah,
sign
by
you
any.
up.
Yeah, by any stretch of the imagination, but doing something outside of just going to the gym and sitting on a treadmill and just going to
Yeah.
the gym and lifting weights and saying, I want to lose 10 pounds or I want to tone up or anything. By the way, neither of lifting weights or sitting on a treadmill or a stationary bike, or there's nothing wrong with that. But to provide yourself some focus, and what I mean is, okay, now I'm to the point where I can stand every time the boat takes off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can stand every time the boat takes off. Now my goal is to get to the point where I can drop the rope. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now I can drop the rope, right? You have iterative goals that you are working towards when you're an athlete over just exercise.
Right.
And again, losing weight and being healthy is a wonderful goal in and of itself. But having something outside of that that's not directly related to your health, that's just related to being better at a task, and in this case,
Right.
a physical task, it creates a certain level of and focus and
Motivation?
motivation. Yeah, motivation towards an end state of I want to be able to get up on that board, do a little light carving, and be able to stay on it through a whole song. That's my goal, right? I want to be able to tell them to play, whatever song. Maybe not the Wreck at the Edmund Fitzgerald, or I can do anything for that. None of these like 7 or 10 minute long songs, but
Right.
you know, um, to be able to get up there and enjoy the music and to shred a little bit without thinking about doing the task, is something, and that's the kind of Zen state you get into when you're good at basketball, when you're good at Olympic weightlifting, when you're good at rugby. You're not thinking about playing rugby when the ball comes into your hands. You're not necessarily thinking of all the mechanical processes to shooting a three when you get the basketball. So being able to unconnect um, from the physical tasks themselves and just connect to the movements. I think there's something positive in that. And I think whether it's dopamine, whether it's serotonin, I have
Magic. We're not sure.
I have a
Voodoo.
history degree and a business degree. I'm by far the furthest thing from a scientist there is, but I feel like that there's something magical, as you say, in that can help. And look, it brightens your mood, makes you feel better once you start getting good at it. And certainly there's growth there in getting good at it and getting outside of yourself and getting outside of what's holding you back mentally, physically. That makes it all worthwhile. And that's why I say, for me, this is great. I've been a water man my whole life. Like I said, I cleaned pools at one point. I played water polo. I swam. I When I lived in Australia, I was by far not a great surfer, but I own a surfboard. Um,
Nice.
I own a surfboard. I scuba dive, so I enjoy the water. For me, wake surfing is a natural thing to do. I'm 2 miles from a lake here with Lake Jordan, just outside of
Oh,
Raleigh.
nice.
So I have a friend with a boat, and by the way, that's the best way to do it. Don't buy the boat yourself. Just have
I
somebody
agree. Get a friend with a
who
boat.
owns a boat and just pitch in for gas.
Yep.
Takes a lot of the headaches out of the whole boating part. But yeah, to go to your question, yeah, I think there's something outside of just exercising, that doing things like this, that doing things like skiing or snowboarding or scuba diving,
Something
windsurfing,
fun.
wakeboarding, something fun, you know, that really can bring you back to who you were in the military. Maybe if that's how you identify yourself, or if nothing else, get you out of where you are right now, at least for a day or two. At least that's what I found.
Absolutely. Yeah, we hear that a lot. It got me off the couch. It changed my mindset.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I love it. That is so good to hear. Thank you so much. You have shared just absolute gold. I love that I got to meet you at this event. I love that we got to do boat things together. We're going to do it again. You'll be coaching before you know it. Like,
Well, I've got opinions on a lot of things, so I'm surprised I didn't start coaching this time. Uh,
well, I'm looking forward to your next event. Yeah, at least once a year, at least once a year. And now we all know where you live, so we're just going to show up like in your
right,
area,
right.
just yelling, Hans, let's go get on the boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll meet you at the lake.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you again on the lake.
All right, you have a great one, Sarah. Thanks.
Thank you.